Good morning and happy Thursday, last day of August, almost September, heading into fall. It's not going to feel like fall for the next week here in Northwest Illinois, but we're headed there. So, one of the questions that I'll get asked a lot at events is, this intentional stuff that we have to do, the priming and making sure that we manage our state. Is there ever a time where that stuff can kind of go on automatic? Well, the answer is yes and no. It's mostly no. And think about it this way. What does an airplane do when its engines aren't running? And if the engines quit on an airplane, can it still fly? Yeah, it can glide and it can get a certain distance, but at some point it's going to come down. It's losing altitude, it's losing momentum. And that's kind of how life is. I love the metaphor of the old merry-go-rounds that we used to have, the carousels. That was just a flat piece of steel with these bent pieces of steel on it, and you had to put kids on it, and then you had to push it. And when you had a bunch of kids on it, it would take all kinds of people in order to get the thing going. It took a ton of effort, but once you got it going, one person could stand there, and with not much effort, they could keep it going. But if they quit, it would slow down, and now it would take a lot of effort to get going again. Well, momentum in life is the same way. So when you do incantations, when you do all of these things, you're going to start to gain momentum. And can you, for a period of time, quit doing that stuff and ride on that momentum? Sure. But eventually it will slow down. The other side of that coin is, though, that when you get that momentum going at a certain level, it doesn't take nearly as much effort once you get it going as it does at the beginning. So as hard as you need to do things at the beginning, once you start to develop that momentum, then it's going to be a lot easier to keep it going. That's true with your health. That's true with your finances. That's true with relationships, true with your business. You know, after you get started, another thing happens that helps you along that way. And you can actually do this at the beginning, and that is to change your identity. That raises your standards when you change your identity. When you raise those standards, are you putting forth a ton more effort? Absolutely, but it doesn't feel like it. So when Tony Robbins talks about if you want to change your life, raise your standards, and the simplest approach, that's kind of what we're talking about. That doesn't mean that now you're not going to have to work. It's going to mean that it doesn't feel as hard because if your standards are raised, now all of a sudden your desire to live at those standards is a lot easier to find, and it's a lot easier to use that power to gain that momentum. So a way to shortcut this, you got to do the work. There's no way around it. If you want to get past something, you got to go through it. If you're in a bad financial place and you want to get past it, you got to go through it. There's no quick answer. You can go play the lottery and hit the lottery, and you know what? You're going to end up right back in that same financial situation because you never developed the muscle. And the way you develop the muscle is by going through it. Another example, the Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about. If you're going to do 10 curls, which one is the hardest? Number 10. Which one gives you the most growth? Number 11. People who want average results only do what is required. People who want above average results over deliver and do more than is expected. And as a result, they get outstanding results. They give an outstanding amount, so they get outstanding results. That will quickly create momentum and get you on a new path in life. And if you change your identity, if you raise your standards, if you all of a sudden are a non-smoker or a non-drinker or a person who is in tremendous shape or somebody who's financially independent, because you now live at those standards, you're going to over deliver and it's going to be easier to create that momentum. Hence why we do incantations. Incantations ingrain into you a new identity. You've heard my example before, the Marine Corps. Go watch Full Metal Jacket. Go watch that movie again. Most of that stuff was taken directly from, I saw that movie with an uncle of mine who was a great mentor for me, especially professionally. And he was from a small coal mining town in Pennsylvania and got drafted into the Marine Corps. and ended up in France. He ended up in Paris. So his tour during the Vietnam War was not like a lot of people's during the Vietnam War. But when he and I went and saw Full Metal Jacket, he could not stop laughing. The guy with his thumb in his mouth and his pants around his ankles and all the incantations, he was like, oh my God, that is exactly what happened when I went into the Marine Corps. Well, why do they do that? It's not just screwing around. They do that because as they're using their body and saying these incantations, they are creating a new identity. My Corps, your Corps, our Corps, the Marine Corps, we're creating a new identity for the person. That's how the Marine Corps takes people from all walks of life, from all backgrounds, from all religions, from all races and creeds and colors, and turns them into Marines. They do it by creating a new identity, and they do that by creating higher expectations, by over-delivering, and by incantations that ingrain in you a new identity as to who you are. You are now a Marine for life. And that means the following things. And they start with the little things, right? They start with haircuts. They start with how you stand. They start with how you march. They start with how you fold your bed, make your bed. They don't start out shooting. They get to that part. But first they start out by raising your standards. Well, we can do the same for ourselves. We can set a new identity that raises our standards tremendously, and we can do it using incantations, ingraining that into our body. All I need is within me now. Every day in every way, I'm getting stronger and stronger. We can ingrain those things. Once we have those new standards, it's going to create more momentum because it's going to create more effort on our part. If we're living at those new standards, then we're going to generate more velocity, and we're going to get ourselves into that state where we can create the outcomes with much less effort. Hope that makes sense. Thanks for hopping on, everybody. It's great to see you. Mr. Drehobel, Valerie, I don't have my glasses on this morning. Mr. Lampy, as always, my regulars are here. It's hard for me to see. Lily, GC, you're on this morning. It's great to see you. It's great to see you. Wendy, down in Florida. Like I said, I hope I get to see you in person. And great yoga stuff, Miss Dickey, and I love you. What'd you get? You got a new goat? You got new chickens? You got something like that? I saw something on Facebook. So thank you so much for saying hi, everybody. Thank you for being on. I really mean it when I say it means everything to me that you guys take the time to watch. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other.